You give me beauty for these ashes, peace that surpasses all understanding.
Well, thank you so much for joining me on another episode of Beauty for Ashes Conversations. If you're new here, I'm your host, Rozitta. Please remember to subscribe in case you haven't subscribed. And if you're listening to us on our podcast platforms, we ask you that you follow us and also share to other people. Today's guest is very, very unique. Let me just say that she is an author, a speaker, an actress. She is so much. She was telling me she's very multifaceted. She can't even exactly tell who she is, but she's a lot of things. And the most amazing thing about her, you guys, she is Ugandan. So all my followers from Uganda feel represented. There's a Ugandan on set today. And without wasting much time, I'm just going to go ahead and invite Rebecca Makyeli. I hope I have said that right.
Yes, you did.
I have.
Well done.
Chisache, that's a very interesting name.
Yes.
You've told me it means?
It means God's grace.
God's grace.
Yes.
Very prophetic.
Indeed.
Welcome to Beautiful Ashes Conversations.
Thank you so much for having me.
You look so amazing.
Thank you so much.
How
a
is-
lovely lady did my makeup.
Oh,
Yeah.
Thank you. So it's so good to have you here on set. And just to begin, I'm going to ask you an icebreaker.
Sure thing.
You are an author, so I assume you're also an avid reader.
Yes.
Are you?
Yes, I am.
On a scale of like 0 to 10, how good are you of a reader?
Good being how fast I read.
No. How often?
How often?
Yeah.
I read every day actually.
Every day.
Yeah.
Wow.
First of all, I endeavor to read the Bible. Then I always ensure that I have a book to read all the time, because
Yeah.
that's something that I'm very intentional with, my personal development.
Yes.
Yeah, because if you're an author and a speaker,
Yeah.
you have to pour into people.
Yeah.
And so you have to constantly
You
build
feel
yourself
yourself.
as a vessel.
Yeah.
So that's what it is.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as an icebreaker, I'll ask you recommend 3 books
Mhm.
to my audience and tell us why you're recommending those books.
3 books.
Yes.
Let's see.
Mhm.
Wow. Okay, you put me on the spot. Woman Evolve, which I saw somewhere here.
Yeah,
Yes, Woman
it's
Evolve by
somewhere.
Sarah Jakes Roberts.
Yeah.
The Fervent by Priscilla Shirer.
Oh.
Lovely.
Uh-huh.
I love Priscilla Shirer.
Yeah.
And anything by Miles Monroe.
Wow.
Anything,
Wow.
whatever it is. Be it
Anything.
on business, relationships,
Marriage.
whatever it is.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
By Miles
So we
Monroe.
have Woman Evolve,
Mhm.
The Fervent,
Yes.
and anything
Anything
Miles
by Miles
Monroe.
Monroe, yes.
Amazing. How come you've not mentioned your own book?
Because I have plenty of time to recommend it later on. Yeah.
Thank you so much. So you are an author of Woman, Fire, Grace. Here is the book. I'm going to put a better shot of it later on. This book, it's your story.
Yes.
And I would love to know, first of all, when did you publish it?
Right. Woman Fire Grace was released on May the 5th
Yeah.
of 2022.
Oh.
That's when it was released. The 5th day of the 5th month of
Yes.
2022. Yes.
The month of grace.
Yes, of course.
Woman, Fire, Grace.
Exactly.
I see.
Yeah.
What inspired you to write this book?
It really was an inspiration from the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
To share my story.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, it started out as a courage project, a healing project in my time of getting into sobriety. It
Yeah.
was the COVID time, and I had just left a 3.5-year stint on the streets. I was homeless on the streets of Kampala. So
Wait, for 3 years?
3.5 years, yes. And so
Whoa.
I had just been put in a house, and so this was now my journey to what began my journey to freedom from alcohol addiction.
Yeah.
And so I was stuck in a small house. All I had was a blanket,
Yeah.
a mattress,
Yeah.
pillow,
Mm-hmm.
a phone, and an extension.
Wow.
And that was a very dark time for me, because I was battling my thoughts, I was battling my mind. I had no access to alcohol because it was the lockdown. I had no money. And so this was a time when God began to, that was my wilderness, when God began to change my desires and appetites, to remove everything that wasn't of Him in me. And it was in that time that, in order to replace what was occupying my mind, which was the desire to drink, to smoke, and all these things, I began to write the book.
Okay.
I wrote that book on my phone.
On your phone?
Yes.
Amazing.
Yes.
So now probably somebody is wondering, wait, addictions and alcohol. Let's go to the beginning.
Right.
Where were you born and everything there?
I was born in the town of Entebbe.
Entebbe.
Yes, Entebbe, in Uganda, the former capital city. That's where I was born.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of my younger years there, I think till I was 3 years old. And then my family moved to Kampala. I am the last born in a family of 6 children, 3 girls, 3 boys. One is late, the eldest.
Okay.
I grew up in a normal household. The eldest siblings, the first 4, were much older than my brother and I, who I follow, because my father had 2 children when he met my mother. My mother had 2 children as well. So when they met, they got married and had me and the brother who I
So it was a blended family?
Yes, it was. And so, they were much older than us. There's a gap of about 14 years, I can say, between me and the other children. And so, they moved out of the country when I was very young. I think at about when I was 4 or 5 years old, the eldest children moved out of the country to the US and the UK. So it was just me and the brother who I follow who remained here.
Yeah.
And we grew up, we went to good schools. My father was blessed. The Lord blessed our family. We never lacked.
Yeah.
I grew up in a family where we were blessed. My father was able to educate us, to feed us, to let us travel.
Yeah.
He's a retired pilot.
Oh.
My mother was
let me ask you, were you like getting those free flights?
Yeah.
Because
yes, so
you had the life.
As I said, God blessed us. God really blessed us.
Yeah.
My mother was an entrepreneur. She was a driven woman, ambition and business. But she worked hard, but she also played. She actually played much harder. She was a lover of life. Like every weekend we had parties at home, or we were going out, always. And so that was something that I grew up seeing.
You thought
Alcohol.
It was normal?
It was normal. You're seeing your aunties, they're bringing your cousins over, you're playing. The adults are having fun, they're drinking.
Yeah.
And it's not until I believe I was about 8 or 9 years old that I started to notice that the alcohol started having an effect on mom.
Effects?
Yeah, it started having effects on mom. Her behavior, she'd have memory loss. Her behavior it just became strange for me as a child.
Yeah.
But that's when I noticed, in hindsight now, what I know, what I knew back then, that's when the alcohol had begun to affect her. And I remember sometime when I was 9 years old, I had friends at school who are still friends of mine now from primary.
Yeah.
We've been friends for over 25 years, I can say. And we used to alternate. They would come to my place for sleepovers, then the other weekend we at so and so's place, the other weekend like that. That's how we would alternate. And so this time it was their time to sleep over at our place, and we were going swimming with mom. And I remember we had a huge car. Now I want you to understand, my father used to work for the national airline of Uganda. Then he got shifted to work for the Kenyan airline. So he was living in Nairobi while mom was in Kampala with me and my
your brother.
So we go swimming, and I remember this day, it was now Sunday morning. Mom had promised to take us swimming, but it clocked 9, it clocked 10, she wasn't coming out of her room. So I went and I knocked, and she opened and she said, "What's wrong?" And she was so rude. I said, "Mommy, you promised to take us swimming." And she kind of like just granted, and she just went, got the car keys. She was in her nightgown, her night dress, everything. She just got into the car, put us in, and we drove. And now on the way as we were going, I was seated in the front seat. My friends were in the back seat. There were 3. They were in the back seat, and my mom was driving. And so as we turned the corner, it was a huge car. It was an intercooler. And so at that time, when we turned the corner, there was a nudge in me. Something nudged me and told me, "Look at mom." And I looked over, and my mom had blacked out.
Blacked out?
Yeah, it was 10 a.m. and she was literally passed out.
What?
In the seat. And so I panicked. The car now started to swerve off the road, and then my little hands are trying to grab the steering wheel. It's a huge car. I can barely reach. And so she had blacked out for about 7 to 10 seconds. And so when she comes back to her senses, she sees me holding the steering wheel, and then she hits me across the face. Then she says, "You're too young to drive. What do you think you're doing?" I'm a child.
So she like hadn't known she had blacked out?
And now I'm a child.
Yeah.
I'm not about to talk back to my mom and say, because now at this point, my mom was a disciplinarian. So now I want you to understand a disciplinarian who's under that influence.
Yes.
That's not a time to have a mouth on you as a child.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so, my friends were in the back screaming because the car was literally going off the road.
Yeah.
And we were just quiet about it. The entire day they took us swimming, they bought us chips and chicken, we swam, and we forgot about it. But my friends still remember because they actually still talk about it to this day. But in hindsight, I look and I say, anything could have happened in that moment. Anything could have happened in that moment. And it just got worse from there. It just got worse from there. She would, it was just little things. She would forget to pick me up from school. I'd be at school till like 8 p.m. as in a day school.
Waiting for her.
Yeah. So classes would end at 5, 6. So she would forget to pick me from school. So sometimes I would be dropped home by the headmistress or the rector. Sometimes she would send the housemaid to pick me. Sometimes a border man, things like that. And it just kind of made me start to resent her. Even at home, there was just so much tension. Even as a child in the house, when she walked in a room, I would walk out because you never knew what version of mom you were going to get. One day she's extremely happy. First of all, she was an outgoing person. She was people loved her. Do you understand? Everyone wanted to be around where she was, the parties that she used to throw. She was a very generous person. At every point in my life, I remember we were living with either cousins or, helping them with school, helping them with, she was very generous. And, in hindsight, I just feel like maybe as adults, now, if this is something I understand now, as adults, we have things that we go through and we find our own coping methods. And I think she had found solace in alcohol, even though she kept it to herself, even what it was doing.
So she was going through stuff?
Yeah, I'm very certain she was going through things.
Do you have an idea what those things were?
Yeah, but it is what it is. And it's some things you just leave to God. Okay. Some things you just leave to God. Yeah. And so over the years it just got worse. Still she would forget to pick me from school. Sometimes I actually got to find out much later in life that she was actually using the pocket money that my father would leave for us. I left primary, I went to secondary. I was happy when I went to secondary because now I was released of the fact that I had to be in the house.
You felt like you were free?
Yeah. I'm now growing. I'm a teenager. Attitudes, hormones all over the place, ambitions. And so in my senior 3, I was 15. I was 15 in my senior 3. Was I? Yes.
Senior 3 is like Form 3?
Yeah, Form 3. You guys have one year, standard 8. As we stop on primary 7 and then go to senior 1. Okay. But even then I was a year younger.
All right.
Yeah. So I was about 4. I think I was 14. I should have been 14. Yeah, I was 14 in my senior 3 because I was a year younger.
Yes.
And so that was the time. I was a very sporty girl. I loved reading. I loved writing. I loved reading and writing right from when I was a kid. My father taught me how to write and read as soon as I could walk. I was reading and my father.
Amazing.
English has been my favorite subject since primary. And so senior 3 I was writing. I loved literature. I loved reading and all that. I used to play cricket. I was very sporty. I played cricket, basketball, hockey, every sport you could think of. I tried tennis, I tried sidri, I tried everything.
Which one is your favorite?
Definitely cricket and basketball.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm such an NBA. I'm Golden State Warriors all the way.
Okay.
Yeah. And
I have no idea what you're saying, but okay.
But yeah, I played cricket. I was on the school team. And so they selected me to represent the country at a conference in Zambia for British Council. I and a schoolmate of mine who was also on the school team. And I was so excited. It was in class when the teacher came and told me, Rebecca, do you have a passport? I said, yes, I have a passport. She said, you're traveling to Zambia. I was so excited. She said, go and pack your stuff from the dormitory. My mom is coming to pick you up. It was like 3 p.m. My mom came to pick me up. She was so drunk. She was, but I was used to it. It's something I was used to, but all I could think about was the trip. I was like, I'm going to Zambia, I was so excited. And so we went home, the entire trip home. Like even when we got home, Mom, those landlines that used to be at home, the phones. Yes. She picked it up. The phone contacts. She was calling everyone in the contact book.
Telling them you're going to Zambia.
She was so drunk. She had her alcohol and her cup. Said, "My daughter is fine." I will never forget. It was so embarrassing, but at the same time, I was like, "Man, we're going to Zambia." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so my flight was at 5 a.m. the next day, so we had to leave at midnight.
Mm-hmm.
All this time, I'm thinking and saying, "Who's going to drive me to the airport?" Because whatever car that woman is driving, I'm not entering it.
Mm-hmm.
She had now become drunk, irritating, you know.
Okay.
And so she called one of her brothers, my uncle, and he came and he drove us.
Yeah.
His aunt who drove us. The entire way she had a bottle. She bought another bottle on the way. It's now midnight. Me, I was irritated. And I remember when she was on phone, before we left home, before my uncle came to pick us up, she was on phone with someone. And I remember I was in my bedroom and I had a very huge thud. And I ran to the room because I knew something had happened. You know when you hear things falling from far? And so I ran to the room because I knew something had happened. And I arrived and she was on the floor. She had passed out next to the phone. And so I was scared, I was frightened. I shook and I said, "Mom, Mom, Mom, Mom." And so she wakes up and she's like, "Why are you shaking me?" You know? And at that time I was like, you know what? Let's not. We're going to Zambia. That was going to ruin it. So the entire ride to the airport, I was so irritated. I just wanted to get on the flight and go. And we reached the airport. And when I got to the airport, I remember I got out and when you're Entebbe airport, there's a point where you can't cross. And I remember at that point I just walked. I didn't stop to say bye to my mom and
just
my
wanted
uncle.
to leave.
I just walked. And so I remember my mom, I was walking to departures. And I could hear her and she was saying, "So you're not going to even say bye to me?" I didn't even wave, I didn't even turn back, I just walked. And I went through my gate and I checked in and I heard her shouting. She was so drunk, it was like midnight, and she was screaming. She said, "Okay, bring me something nice." I said, "Whatever," and I walked through, and I went to the gate, I checked in. My friend arrived, we went together. I went to Zambia was amazing. I was there for about 5 days. And after 5 days I returned to Uganda, and long story short, I arrived when we landed. I arrived at arrivals, and I found my auntie and my two aunties there. And I looked and I was like, Mom is drunk. Like it was something I'd known from primary school. Like when I come out and
you see your auntie,
not even aunties, when I see somebody else who's not mom, I'm like, she's drunk. She couldn't come pick me. And so I get to arrivals, I enter the car with my aunties, they take me home. And so just as we turn the corner heading to home, this entire ride from the airport, the ride from the airport is like 1 hour long. And the entire ride from the airport, they turn and they tell me, Rebecca, you have to be strong. Over the weekend, Mommy passed away. And I said, "Excuse me?" She dropped me at the airport on Friday morning. They said, "Yes," and she passed away Saturday morning. And I said, "Passed away from what?" They said she went to sleep and she never woke up.
What?
And
how did that make you feel?
Listen, in that moment, I actually can visualize the very moment that I received that news, and I can assure you that for the next 15 years of my life, I never grieved my mom. I grieved her in other ways that were detrimental to my life. And it's I think I actually grieved her in 2020. That's when I genuinely grieved my mom. And in that moment, I couldn't believe it until we arrived at the gate, and the high school bus, the school bus of my high school was there. Students from my school were there. My father was there. My aunties, my uncles, there were tents in the compound, and I said, "This is actually real." And we buried Mom. And life just went on. How did
that affect you in any way? You're saying that you grieved in other ways that were not that were detrimental to you. What ways were those?
What I can say is I grew up seeing my mom drink.
Yes.
And I vowed in my life, I said, I will never, that's something I grew up with. I said, I will never touch alcohol in my life because of what I saw it do to her. And I believe that between the period when my mom died and a year later to when I was actually exposed to alcohol in my senior six vacation, there was a period of there's a transition in my mind that took place. It was a form of grieving, but it wasn't genuine grieving, you know, because at that time I don't remember crying tears, you know, or pouring out from my heart that mom died. I think it was a disbelief that she had actually passed, because I remember for years telling myself I never got to say goodbye to her. And so for me it was like she hadn't died, because I didn't get to say goodbye to her. It's like, yes, she's gone, but to me she's not gone because I didn't say bye. And so a year later, a friend of mine, I was in my senior 6 vacation. Life was different. Dad went back to Nairobi. The house was quiet because she was the life. My goodness, when she walked into the house, she was radiant. There was music. She cooked and she was speaking to everybody. She was loud and she laughed. And the house was just gray. It was just dark. Everyone was just doing their own thing. You know, it was just there was just a void. And so a year later in my Essex vacation, I was never that child who I want to go out and be everywhere. No, my father did everything in his power to ensure that home was a comfortable place. Whatever you needed was there. There was TV, there was music, there was a PC, there was PlayStation, whatever you needed. Stay home, you know, this is a lovely place. Don't go out disturbing other people in their homes. And so my brother is exactly like his father. He's logical, he's into engineering, planes, locks himself in his room on the PC, computer. That was him. Me, I was that copy of my mom, outgoing. I used to watch TV music. I wanted to know what was lifestyle. You know, who's dating celebrity, like who's dating who, pop culture, what songs are at the top. Music has always been a thing of mine. It's no surprise I became a DJ later on in life. Or even worked on radio, because music is it's a part of me. I love music. And so moving on, in my senior 6 vacation, I was in the house by myself. It was just me, my brother, and the housemaid. So the housemaid is minding her own business. I'm watching TV, and I had a phone. My father had given me a phone. And so a friend of mine from school, we would chat on phone. And this day I remember we were chatting on phone at like 11 in the night, because there was this discount where you talk on phone at night. And I'm like, what are 15-year-olds telling themselves on phone for all this long in the night? And so we're talking, and then he tells me, oh, what are you up to? And I'm like, it's 11 in the night. I'm home. You know?
I'm definitely
I'm
bed.
definitely home. You know? And he said, I want to take you out. And I said, out where? It's 11 in the night. Where you heathen like me? Where do you want to take me? Because I had stories of all this Kampala nightlife and all this. And he says, no, it's just, you know, me and a couple of friends are going out to a very popular discotheque that is still there in Kampala. I don't know. I think it closed a few years ago. But he said, yeah, we're going out. And I'm like, what? You guys, how? You know, for them, it was cool and all that. For me, I was like, you know. But eventually he was a good friend. He convinced me. He came for me, he picked me up, I dressed up. I didn't even know what they wore to clubs. Trust me, I stood out like a sore thumb.
What are you wearing?
I was in, you remember these stone-washed jeans? They're green but had
like it's faded.
Faded brown. And then I had a tank top. And my hair, I had my long hair. You know, I really looked like a good girl who had just come out. And so I went to the club. I looked around, I was so traumatized. I said, these are the women of the night. Women were wearing. It's like there was nothing. It's like they had stolen their husbands' fishing nets. I said, how do you walk out and you're comfortable?
Oh my God.
Wearing this. Like you might have as well just stayed home, you know. I was so traumatized, and I just held my friend's hand. I told him, do not let me go. I was frightened. The women are frightening. The men are just looking at you first of all. So it was just perturbing. And so I was that kind of kid. Like I was a good kid. I was about my books. I was about books and that was me. And so we go out and we enter the club. They didn't check us for IDs or anything. We entered the club, and I saw all these other guys who were in my class, and then also guys who are still in my class but from other schools. And so it was dark. So the place that had light was the counter.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why I told my friend, I'm not leaving here where there's light. Here, the counter is where I'm going to sit. He said, okay. So he talked to the bartender. They like, I think they're familiar with each other.
Yeah.
So I think he told her, look after my friend.
Yeah.
And so I went and I sat.
Mm-hmm.
It's so funny that I'm so humorous about this story now because it was a frightening situation.
I can imagine.
And so I sat at the counter.
Yeah.
Men are just ogling at you, looking at you, because you don't look like the other heathen women who are around. So they're looking, they're like, this one, I'm curious. My goodness. Anyway, so the lady comes and she asks me, what can I bring you? I kid you not, my first night out, I asked for mango juice. The lady laughed. She called my friend. I think she explained to him because she called him and she whispered. She explained to him, I think the person you brought here, it seems she's bleak about how we run things here. So my friend comes and says, hey, they only have beers and I don't know, whiskeys and that. And he started showing me all these bottles. Now, all these things, now back then, the bottles of beer were the slim things you see now.
Yeah.
Hadn't yet come.
Yeah.
By then, the things were fat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they reminded me of my uncles, they reminded me of my mom. They had these whiskeys and all that. My mom used to drink gin, a very popular type of gin in Uganda. And I swore in my life, I said, I will never take it. Funny, it's the same thing that became my poison that almost killed me. And so she eventually, there was, after showing me all these things, I said, I don't want any of these things. Now, at the time, there's a brand that came out.
Yeah. And
it had their marketing strategy. This was now 2005. This was now 2006. Their marketing strategy was fridges, branded fridges. And even if you walk into any place, even today, that particular brand, their fridges stand out.
Okay.
And so I looked at it, and I'm a sweet tooth. I love sweet things. And for me, I looked at this fridge. It was fluorescent, and the bottles were, I'm not describe the bottle. I won't mention the brand, but if I describe the bottles, you'll know. The bottles were little tiny bottles, and it was like a luminescent, a fluorescent. It looked like soda, like lemonade. Whoever knows, they know the brand already. And so I said, I'll have what's in that fridge because it looks like soda.
Yeah.
I said, okay. Now they were on promotion, so I think they're like five for a certain thing.
What?
So they're bringing me in batches.
Yeah.
But they're 3 or 5. They were either 3 or 5. So they brought them in batches.
Yeah.
I opened the first one. I tasted it. It was like a zesty lemonade. I said, this is me. So I've never been intoxicated.
Yeah.
All I'm taking is for just the sweetness of the drink. And the next thing I knew, first of all, it was reggae night. I love reggae music.
Yes.
Like reggae music flows through my bones, reggae and dancehall music. So next thing I knew, the shoulders were moving, and then the knee, I had never been drunk. So for me, it was just like, this song sounds different today.
Yeah.
And so next thing I knew, I was dancing all over the place. I had taken about 12 of those bottles in a few hours. 12. And I was, because they were tiny things and they were sweet.
Yeah.
And me, I was drinking like I was drinking soda. Not at tea. People who drink alcohol drink knowing it's alcohol, and you have to pace yourself. Otherwise, you're going to end up a nuisance. I didn't know that this is what alcohol does to you. Me, I was just drinking as if I'm just quenching thirst. Passing time.
Yes.
I danced. Rozitta, I danced for Kampala that day. I danced. I'll never forget that day. I danced.
Yeah.
And so at the end of the night at around 5, my friend comes and tells me, "Sure, you're drunk. Taking you home." I said, "I'm not drunk." Said, "I want to dance." I was having so much fun.
Yes.
I was having the time of my life. And so eventually he took me home. I don't remember how I got into the house. I don't remember how I got into my room. All I know is I woke up the next day, midday. My head was throbbing. My mouth was so dry. And I still had my clothes on. My bag was even still hanging from my hand. I was on my bed sleeping. My jeans were on, my tank top. My hair was like this. All I know is I woke up. I looked for my phone. First thing I did, I looked for my phone. I saw the time. Midday. I said, okay. I picked up that phone. I called my friend. I told him, where are we today? And that was the beginning of the rest.
You asked him, where are we going?
Are we today? Yeah. Because whatever I experienced yesterday, I need to experience it again.
What?
Yeah. And that was the beginning of my drinking I don't know if I can call it journey. Yeah. Yeah.
Now, at this point, had you forgotten that you had told yourself you'd never become like your mom?
I don't think I had forgotten it. I knew it, but I had now actually experienced and tasted. And now I was being driven by the benefits of the alcohol, of the feeling that it gave you, the taste,
the ecstasy, and all.
Now I hadn't just started the bitter things, because I think the bitter things were, I was still taking my sweet, because they're the ones I was introduced to. Yes. And so I would take them so quickly because now I was waiting. I wanted the buzz. And so I would drink until the buzz comes. And so I was going out every day. This is my form for vacation. I was going out every day. My father is not in the house to monitor me. My brother is locked himself in the room on his computers, and so I always wanted to be out, do you understand, every single day. So I would leave the house at about midday. I'd be back the next morning at like 5, 6, Sometimes people would notice I'm not in the house, sometimes people wouldn't. And so, life went on like that. At that time, I wasn't drinking heavy, but I was exposed to alcohol on a daily basis. You understand?
At what point did you realize you had become addicted?
It wasn't even anywhere near there. At this point I just thought I was being young and free and experimenting.
You were living.
I was just living. Plus you're a teenager doing things that are forbidden. There's that rush it gives you. Like you're the cool kid hanging with guys and they're big brothers. So I went to my Form 5. I went to Form 5. Of course, I was still drinking. Now, my drinking had started to... I was now graduating, moving from these sweet things. Now we were getting to gin, punched with a soda to keep it sweet. Because there's a way I was running away from bitter things.
You don't like bitter.
I didn't like bitter things. So I would punch, make it sweet, things like that. So that's Form 5, Form 6. Now, Form 6 vacation is when now I was molded into a seasoned drinker, because now I was drinking every single day. Every single day I was out. It was either a house party, or we start at a house party, go for a barbecue, then go to the bars. I was leaving home. I was leaving home 4 p.m, sleeping the whole day, leaving home 4 p.m, coming back the next day at 7 a.m, sleep till 3, shower, get ready, 4 p.m, someone picks me every day, Monday to Sunday.
That was the schedule.
That was it. There was nothing there was nothing else there. There was nothing else. And now at this time I had graduated to hard liquor, to gin. Now I was no longer even punching it. Now I was taking whiskeys, gin, hardcore, plain, and this is also when I was introduced to cigarettes.
You started smoking?
I started smoking, yes. Because I used to hang around smokers. So I became curious. And also I think one day someone introduced cigarettes to me, and I remember it was such a struggle learning how to... There's a whole science. I don't even want to teach it on camera.
Yes, let's not teach them.
But eventually, for some reason, I was such a quick learner with those things. So, and it accelerated because there's a way nicotine adds to the head rush that alcohol has, which is why a lot of people take them hand in hand. And so that actually, because me, I was after the feeling. I wanted to get high. I wanted to get buzzed. And so I kept I was smoking for that purpose. But eventually I got hooked to cigarettes. I would even smoke without alcohol. Like I would just wake up. I reached a point where I was moving with cigarettes evereverywhere in my bag, lunch break, after
At
food.
this point, your brother still doesn't know you're doing all these things?
My brother knew that I drank, but he didn't know how much I drank. He knew, because it's like, you see how normalized alcohol is, but you never know how much someone drinks. You just know, oh, the person goes out. Okay, everyone goes out. But you just don't know to what extent they are, or how copious the amounts they're drinking are, which is detrimental to them. And, it became a normal thing. And so I got to university. When I got to university, my goodness, I was drinking with master's students and PhD students. First year, as in drinking competition with grown men.
What?
And eventually, long story short, it affected my studies. This was now where the first negative effects started to
manifest.
it started affecting my studies. I wasn't waking up to go to class. I was missing class, and of course there's a certain amount of classes that you need to have attended in order to
proceed to do exams
and things like that.
Yeah.
So first semester was okay. First semester we drank and we found a way to balance. We drank and then we passed. Second sem, not so much. I actually chewed my tuition second sem. And I keep saying this everywhere I go. There's something about tuition money. Do not chew tuition money. Tuition money is cursed. You will get money for anything in the world. Even if it's money you set aside for business and you say, you know what, let me use some of this money, I'll refund it. You know, you will find that money to refund. Tuition money. Even if you move 100 bob like this, that money will never. You will. It will get lost.
It punishes you.
So I chewed this money. It was a lot of money. It was an expensive university, a private university in Uganda. And I removed that money. Rozitta, I reached a point where I said, you know what, Che? We're not putting back this money. Like this money has disappeared. So what we can do is just prepare ourselves for what we're going to tell Dad. But in the meantime, as we're preparing, let's just drink. Forget the problems. There was nothing I could do. All I could do was drink because I didn't want to think about it. I knew I'd already flunked. I knew there was no tuition. I said, now how am I going to explain this to this man?
Let me just drink.
Just drink. There's nothing you can do. So I just drank. That's all I was doing. Drink, sleep, and eat. That's if you even had appetite to eat. The days you just wake up, there was this saying, avoid hangovers, stay drunk. We took it literally. You sleep, you wake up, you look for, and now we're taking, because the university was now in a place that it's like a rural area. But that's the time before there was things like what you call M-Pesa here. It was a long time ago. This was 2009. It hadn't yet come. So if you had no money in the village, you had no money until people came back from Kampala on Monday. So weekends you're there. The little money that you have, you can't now buy at big bottles. You can't buy sachets, coffee spirit.
My God.
So you buy a box. You have your 10 sachets and just sit there. You pass time just squeezing it like this. There's nothing to do with that. There was nothing to do in the village. What are you doing? There's nothing to do. You just squeeze sachets. There with your problems. You chewed tuition. So time came for registering for exams. I did register for the exams. I called my father. Of course, now I'm thinking clearly. And I told him, you know what? I had to lie to him. I told him, you know what? This course that I'm doing is not helping. I don't think it's good for me. And
which course was it?
What course was I doing? Because I was doing ethics and development studies.
Okay.
And I told him I had to do something, go in finance, something like that.
But all along, this is just a lie.
It's a lie, of course. Was I going to tell my father that I chewed all those? It was a lot of money. Rozitta, it was a lot of money. And so I told him, and you know, my father is a very understanding man. And he said, okay, it's okay. You come home, get your things, come home. So he said, my brother picked me up, went home. So we talked it over. Found me another university.
Private?
Found me another private as well. But this one was now a Christian university. Uganda Christian University. So I'm coming from what's like Vegas to a Christian university. Somebody said culture shock. So I get in, I applied. I applied for business administration and I got in. I had good grades. I was a brilliant. You said let me tell you,
I'm brilliant.
I'm brilliant. That one I've always known. I am brilliant. I had good grades. I got in. The course I applied for, they gave it to me on merit. And I got in. But now the culture shock, the lifestyle was different.
Definitely.
First years have to sleep in university hostels. There's curfew. The dress code you have to always wear. You have to be in and out. No cigarettes, no alcohol, no, you know. And I was like, whoa. You know.
How did you cope?
Of course, I had to become a rebel somehow. First sem, I slept in a university hostel. I had here, but of course, because now, when I came to this university, I was back into first year. So my other friends who I knew were in second year. So, and of course, they're sleeping on outside hostels. So I would always party with them, hang out with them. So eventually, I started drinking again. And of course, these are people who knew me as a drinker. They knew me from, way before. They said, Chase here, let's, And so basically the pattern resumed. Second sem, I got a hostel off campus. I got a forged letter. Someone forged it for me. Just it's a long story.
You were naughty.
Yeah. No, I had to. It's rebellion. That's what you do. Let me tell you. You become wise and can all the wisdom will come out in the world when you need some necessity. Don't play. I needed to get off campus.
Yeah.
I needed to get off campus, and so I found a hostel off campus, and that's where, it was near to my friend's hostel, so I would, it was easy access for me.
Yeah.
So eventually I just started drinking. Basically I would drink and then wake up at like midday, 2 p.m. the next day. And I mean, by now classes of the day are done. So the same pattern.
You flunked?
I flunked. I did pass. Now second sem also, I should have tuition. Now this university, they allow you to pay, at least you can pay some, and then
so you paid half?
Because I said, let's not do what we did the other time. So this time I paid some.
I can't
and I left the other one now is for drinking. So yeah, same thing happened.
Yeah.
And again, same thing. Tuition, it will never listen. Yeah. That's one thing I have to teach my kids. Like, do whatever you want in life, but this money I'm giving you for tuition.
Never.
Help yourself.
Yes.
Yeah. So, same thing happened. And this time now, the condemnation sank in. And I said, Dad will never forgive me for this.
Yeah.
So what I did is I just stayed quiet about it. And I was on campus for 3 years.
This time, are you studying or are you just drinking?
Anything. My father was giving me money for tuition, which I wasn't paying. I would just pay for a hostel and be there. Because I had flunked. Do you understand?
Yeah, so if you flunk, you
even
can't
in flunking,
continue.
You're allowed to carry retakes. But you see, in the retakes I carried, there was no class. I wasn't attending class.
Yeah.
All I was doing was drinking. I had my first abortion in second year.
Oh.
The father was not interested at all. But at this point, I had now become so used to bad decisions. It didn't faze me. I said, whether he accepts it or not, I'm going to remove it and go and drink. Alcohol had now become my bedrock.
Do you think you understood your mom at that point? Did you understand why she was the way she was?
No. At this time now, this period of my life, there was nothing about my mom's drinking or whatever that was driving me.
Okay.
This was now just me living the consequences of my decisions.
Yeah.
This was now just me falling into pit after pit after pit of my bad decisions. So I wasn't going to class. I flunked.
Yeah.
Of course, because of fraternizing with guys and all this.
Yeah.
And also alcohol, the debauchery. Yeah. I ended up pregnant. I terminated the baby. It affected me in a way, because children had always been a part of me, like a soft spot in me.
Yeah.
But because of the bad decisions I was making, I had to make decisions that were callous for myself and also for other people. I was stealing from friends. I was stealing money from home. I was literally stealing money from. Do you understand?
Yes.
Because I wanted to live this kind of life.
Yeah.
Eventually, of course, a thief has 40 days. In third year, I was part. I think third year, I did look like a student who had written dissertation. Like I was home for holidays, and I think my father remarried. So I think they looked and said, this is not a person who has a third year student who lives home at 4 p.m, comes back at 7 in the morning, sleeps all day, lives the same. Something is wrong here.
Yeah.
So long story short, they went to the university. They asked for my, I don't know what they call it a script.
Yeah, results
script. Yeah. So the whole thing was printed, all the semesters.
0.
First year, first sem, I had passed properly. Second sem, good grades, but there were gaps. The rest were just blank. Second year, first sem, blank. Second year, second sem, blank. Third year, and they showed it to me like this. And I saw the slip, and actually they brought it to me when I was leaving the house to go and party. Yeah, they drove in and they said, we'd like to talk to you. And they just showed it to me, and it broke my heart. Because it was a look in my father's eyes that broke my heart, because this is a man who he had done everything to provide for us.
You had
we
no
never
excuse.
lacked.
Yeah.
I can never come out and say that I asked my father for something and he refused to buy it.
Yeah.
That me, I said, Daddy, I want this.
Yeah.
And he said, I don't have the money for it.
Yeah.
I would be a liar,
Mm.
lying through my teeth.
Mm.
Whatever it was, whatever I asked for, my father provided.
Mm.
Anything.
Mm.
And so it broke my heart. Just the look in his eye just broke my heart. So I went to my room and I cried my eyes out. I cried, but I didn't want to keep feeling that.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just packed. I didn't even carry anything. I didn't. I just walked out of the house and I went to a friend's house and I stayed there for a whole week.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just drinking the entire time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, those are the friends that you have.
Yeah.
People who you tell, I have this problem, and they have only one remedy. They just give you a bottle
Let's
and
drink.
cigarettes. Yes.
Yeah.
But of course, at the end of the 7 days, of course you can't run away forever.
Yeah.
Even your friends get tired.
Yeah.
And eventually my friend told me, in Uganda it sounds funnier. It sounds funny in Uganda. It told me, Genda ikaba kulabeko, which means go home and they see you.